The previous 2 speeches I gave, and to be honest, I don't remember the first 2, what I really said in them. But I know what I didn't do. I didn't give Dad the recognition that he deserved because he's the one who taught me how to tint. He's the one who taught me, like I said in the speech, quality. There is no right way to do it, but there is a right end to it. That end better look the same. I don't care how you got from A to B or however you did it. As long as your quality of work is where our standard is, I don't care what you do.
Welcome to Born to Tint with the Miller Brothers. This is our 5th episode. Today's a special one. It's just going to be me and Ricky. We just competed at the International Window Film Conference in Tint-Off. Ricky actually brought home the title again for World's Best Architectural Window Film Installer. This is his 3rd one, and it was awesome being there, competing against him. We definitely have a playful competitiveness to us. We're both ultra competitive, but it's always in fun. Ricky, how did this year's conference go? What'd you take away? How was the competition?
It was, well, first off, I want to state numerous things that I forgot to say, which I've done in both times other 2 times I've won, when it came to the thank you speech at the end, because you try to remember one thing and you forget everything else. Is I wanted to thank the Window Film Conference staff, the WFCT, for putting on another amazing show. It's nice being back and competing again. I wasn't able to make it last year. Thankfully, Josh was able to hold down the fort and bring home the trophy last year. So our company is one thing I'm really proud of, is that we've won back-to-back now, best window film, flat glass window film installers in the world. So that means a lot to us. But no, I'll thank all the competitors. It's nice seeing old friends I haven't seen in a couple of years. Reconnecting, re-networking. I always love these competitions because of what we can pull from when it comes to just installation techniques and stuff like that. And it's always nice to compete. Always nice to compete against you.
Agreed.
When it comes down to it, it's I always like pushing myself for installation, and I take this competition as because every time we go to compete, it's always set in the parameters that we probably wouldn't even do in our normal day installs, but it sets parameters to where you kind of have to attack the situation in a way to where you solve the problem in a certain amount of time and doing things that you technically don't ever do. So I like going out to the competition and hitting, when I'm installing at least, I have a certain set of things I want to do and make sure if I repeat those things, we'll be good to go. I think when me and you both compete, we kind of take different approaches sometimes, but obviously it doesn't really matter what approach you take because all that matters is the end quality.
Yeah, no, for sure. This year, I said it right after the rules meeting. So there's a rules meeting the day before the competition, and this year the time for architectural, the first heat, got reduced by 5 minutes, from 20 minutes to 15 minutes. Same, everything else is the same. That 5 extra minutes was rough. As soon as I saw that, I already knew in my head, dang, Ricky's got a huge edge. You're definitely faster installer than me. I did finish the window, but I needed 1 or 2 more minutes to dry an edge. Those are the only marks I had on my window. My window was perfect other than that. And so then you went after me, and it was kind of nice knowing I knew my window wasn't going to make the finals. Other people were trying to hype me up and keep me motivated. Oh, it looked good. And it's I've been to this enough that I knew it wasn't going to make it.
One thing I love about our industry is that alone. I'm sorry. I just want to point that out, is the fact that that's the other reason why I love these events, is that some people that you don't even know that are walking up to you hey, I follow your Instagram, love what you guys do. And then everyone pumping each other up.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing I love about the industry.
The vibe in the industry has improved drastically. I think competitions like this are a big part of that, actually getting everybody together. For some reason, you're a lot less competitive and feel like you're got to beat the guy next door when it's people from all over the world, really. There was a Craig from Canada made both finals, the automotive and the architectural. That was cool to see because we've been talking to him for years now at the competition. That was really cool to see. Everybody's rooting for each other. So a big positive to these events in my mind, other than going and trying to compete and win, is that for sure. The knowledge everybody has to share. And like you were saying, the different styles of installation are really interesting to watch. Even us, we have the same fundamentals. We know you need to clean the window really well. We know certain tips and things on we'll always factory top edge a window, meaning that we don't cut the top edge because you have the possibility of water with debris coming down into the window, which is interesting to see how many people don't do that in competition. And some of the best installers in the world, people that have made the podium before and won, watching them tint this year, you know, when it wasn't my turn, it was interesting to see how many people were doing that. And
less.
yeah, there's a couple.
Saul.
There's a handful of people that were cutting that top edge. But for us, it's been like a standard for us, our practice at our shop, to never do that if you don't have to. So it's like really interesting to see how much of an art it really is. And I can't help but more than ever compare it to jiu-jitsu, because there's some set fundamentals that everybody does, but everybody does it a little bit different and puts their own little art and tweak on it. Like I said, I said it last year in my speech last year when they did the whole little video thing after you win. You're hands down the best, fastest installer I've ever worked with in my life, and I don't think I'm being biased. I mean, you are my brother, but we are competitive, and I would like to beat you at these competitions, which I haven't been able to do. But I know my little break, 6 years away doing the Army, gave you a huge edge. And at the time, the main installer we had was really fast. So the fast thing, you got more training with that. And it's just like jiu-jitsu, like someone who's had 6 more years on the mat than me, they're going to beat me pretty much every single time, you know? So I come into it knowing that, which is good. Like I would rather not be the best installer in the circle of people that I'm working with or tinting with, because I want to get better. And like, you need something to push you. And I think that's something that we have going great, is I think we both push each other. I think we both have strengths. I don't know. It was cool to get my window done first and kind of know I wasn't going to make the finals, and then just root for you the whole way. Watching the finals, it was interesting to me this year. For anybody thinking of competing in the future, or anybody that did this year, something that really stood out to me, and I even live streamed it, which Window Film Mag, that was awesome that you guys started live streaming and allowing that this year. I think you did a lot more cool content leading into the conference, raising more awareness that exists. But this isn't a speed competition, guys. Even though you're fast.
I think you're giving away trade secrets here. Come on.
It was obvious. I already went live and said this.
If they don't remember next year, well, I'll interject because I know where you're going with this.
No, it's the time thing. Yeah. Like people's egos, I think, get the best of them because everybody does want to be fast. But the competition scored on quality. And finishing a finals window that you have 25 minutes to do in 5 minutes, and then sitting there, because once you hold your done sign up, you can't do anything else to your window. You know, you could have been the fastest installer there and had your window done first, but would it have been as clean as it ended up being? No. You took every last moment of time. You were the last person to finish. And I think that comes from experience in competing and realizing that this is all about quality. You even said it in your end speech about that was Dad's main thing, is like, we're going to be the best quality tint shop there is, understanding the value in providing the top quality service you possibly can is going to get you referrals and happy customers. And that's like a big part of the business side of it, is like, and you feel better knowing you put up the best possible work. Everybody in the industry knows the little things you can get away with.
No, yeah.
And they even said that in the rules meeting, but that's not the point of this competition, is to see who can put up the best quality work. So, you know, you having nobody left competing with 5 minutes to go and being able to sit there and just make sure every edge was dry. You even took the ladder and wiped off the back side of the window, which nobody else did. All of those little things, it made it really easy to walk around and, like, before they had announced who had won, this is the most confident I'd ever been that you won. Like, I could see by looking at all the windows that yours was clearly cleaner than everybody else's. So it's like, this is a quality competition, so everybody needs to treat it that way. I want the competition to be better because...
Oh, no, I've in the past, I'd say probably in 2016, 17, so after my first win, I was really quiet during the rules meetings. Would talk to people, but wouldn't really talk about the competition. In my mind, I don't want to give them a leg up. I'll let people know certain things like, hey, you should do this. Like, I'm fairly certain the first time Johnny Blades competed, that was 2000, I think that was 21, if I'm not mistaken. I talked to him, I told him, wiped out the other side of the window off. Like, yeah, we're not judged on what's on the outside of the window, but if I'm a judge looking out a window and yours just for some reason just looks cleaner, like there's no dirt on the backside. Like, you gave me some shit. on doing that in the first round. Yes, we had 15 minutes. So where I messed up is I didn't have glass cleaner. I used soap and water, and I did not like the way it looked, and I probably took like an extra 30 seconds I didn't need to take doing it. But with some glass cleaner, first thing I do is I wipe the outside of that window off. I have to put up an install free of all debris, of as much as I possibly can, like technically the most perfect window. I want to make sure I'm looking at perfectly clean squeegee window before I install. That's why I do it. Now with the finals, because I don't remember the last time I competed in the finals, I had 25 minutes. I think I had 20. So I had 5 less minutes. So I don't think I did, because that was in 18. I don't think, because
I think they've stayed consistent with that.
Well, when I was competing, when I was doing my window, I kept checking the clock. And then I started noticing when I was getting towards the end of like sealing off my edges and stuff, like I started looking around, like I'm seeing who's done, you know. And then when I had about 5 minutes, I stood up on the ladder. I remember like looking around and seeing like everyone has held up their done sign. So at this time, my time doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's only a tiebreaker.
That's the only thing that it does. Which the funny part is, the first time I won in 2015, it came down to me and Matt Adams.
Yep.
It was time.
He was there this year and he was talking about it. I think that might have been a reason why a lot of people were going faster too.
Oh, it's yeah, it definitely can get into your head. But as soon as I saw that I had the 5 minutes, I was just like, I got all the time in the world right now. Went around, made sure everything was dry, did some extra things, maybe made a pass or two that could have came back and bit me, but it didn't, like just making sure things were dry. And that's when I got off the ladder and I noticed like, oh, I got 2.5 minutes left. Like there was a part of me that was just like, I looked up and I saw the overspray on the backside of my glass and I was like, oh, I got plenty of time. And as I'm setting my ladder up there, I'm like, this is awesome. All 7 guys right now are watching me clean the backside of my window thinking like, damn, that's actually probably a good idea. Or like I'm just taking, because why not? At this point, it's about quality. That extra quarter of a point wins me the competition. Yeah. And I don't got to worry about time anymore.
Yeah.
But no, it was fun going at the finals like that. Like I think that's the first time where I've deliberately have gone, like I made sure I took every second I possibly could. I knew what corners, I knew what they were going to look for in corners. That's got me in the past. The little extra water that probably isn't that bad, but with the type of film they make us use, using the Silver 20, it's you see everything. Yeah. So it was, and I enjoyed the finals this time, I would say. A couple moments were a little stressful where I had things pop up on my edges where I almost cut it and I decided not to, and decided just to work it with a card and do it a couple times and then pop my rubber, and you know, it was kind of like, I hope this doesn't pop. And
so this leads me to, how important do you feel the quality or the brand of film you're using matters? Because in my mind, it makes a huge difference. I saw people not able to drop roll their window. I know some adhesives aren't as aggressive as others, and I know that's one thing that we're lucky to be using, that 3M silver. The adhesive on it grabs good. So in a competition for time, I feel like it's an edge that we've got that, you know, not all films are created equal. And how do you feel that makes a difference in the competition?
I will push back on that. I don't think it matters. I think what matters, the main thing that matters, is knowing your product. If you're at the competition and you're struggling to undo the film, you haven't worked with that product. You knew what film you're using in the competition. Why didn't you get yourself ready?
I agree with that. There was people that are competing with films that they normally don't use because their manufacturer wasn't there this year or whatever. But that affects them, right? Like it still has some effect. Oh
no, absolutely. But the main reason I push back on it is because technically, my first 2 times I won with Solar Guard, and it wasn't a silver. They weren't using silver at the time, and this time around, we were using 3M because that's who was sponsored. Solar Guard wasn't there, so 3M sponsored us, and that's who's been sponsoring us. And yeah, thankfully, we got a good film, which 3M puts out a great product. We got a film that we knew drop rolled, so we knew we weren't going to have to struggle. But if we knew it didn't drop roll, we would have game planned for it.
Oh, yeah.
And totally. if we knew the glue wasn't as aggressive as we wanted to be, less soap. So it's controlling your solution in your bottle. So in my eyes, it's knowing your product. As long as you know the product you're putting on, you should be good. Now, if you're showing up at a competition and you're like, well, I've never used this stuff before, like, you probably should have, like, called them and said, hey, can I get, like, 10 feet? Let me use this stuff real quick. Let me figure out how to use it. Because I did hear that from multiple competitors. You know, I never use this. And it's like...
Yeah, so that's definitely part of being prepared.
So that's for me, that's what it comes down to, is you got to be prepared. Like, and that's... Like one thing, like when it comes down to it, like because we've had so much experience in these competitions, because we've done them so many times, like I know the measurements of those windows. I just know them. I've measured them numerous times. I've committed it to memory, to where like you get to pick your film up 30 minutes beforehand, and you get to you can cut your piece that you want. So you get to do all that. Take advantage of all of the things they allow you to do, and use it to your best abilities. To where every time I show up, when we walk in and we're laying out our pads and stuff, I'm putting my tools out. I'm setting my pattern down. Like the biggest thing that we saw, I would say, at the competition this year, is it was people not doing the simple things, not doing the things that are the easy points, the easy things that you can easily grab.
Yeah.
Put your box of film away. That should be the first thing you do. Very first thing.
Yeah.
You should literally cut your pattern, set your pattern out. And I tell everyone, and like even like the other things I do, like, and it's not really much of a secret if you watch me compete. When they say, all right, prep your station, I'm pulling out my sheet to cover my table. I pre-cover my table. I put my done sign where it needs to be, to where when I'm done, I'm kicking my toolbox underneath the table and lifting my sign. Everyone else is scrambling to put all their pads away, put their tools away, put out their sheet all nice. They forget their tint box out. That's 10 points gone. That pretty much knocks you.
Minutes.
Yeah, it possibly knocks you out of the competition, or it takes the 30 seconds away that you could have used to touch up one thing that would have got you into the finals.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Definitely.
it's just knowing the rule set and taking advantage of every second they'll give you for anywhere you can take it.
That's some good advice. That's one thing I notice you do really well, that anybody listening or watching this and you plan on competing in that competition again next year, that's solid. One thing that you mentioned, knowing the window sizes and stuff, and I know a lot of people have talked about it, would you like to see the window systems they're using change? Because I would like to see some more standard, like home vinyl windows or something, where it's not a rubber gasket on a commercial window. That we wouldn't tint that way anyways. So these windows in this competition are like a commercial window you'd see in any kind of commercial building that has a rubber gasket in it. In the real world, when we're out installing jobs with these windows, we're gonna pull that gasket out. We're gonna clean the inside of the seal of the window, and even a junior installer that hasn't been tinting for very long, we can have install that window perfectly clean, because you don't have to deal with the rubber gasket around the edge. You finish the window, you dry it, you put the gaskets back in, and the window looks perfect. It looks like it came that way from the factory. There's no light edge. Whereas most windows in homes aren't that style window, and they're either like a really high-end Pella window with wood frames, or a vinyl window that there's nowhere to hide the edge. So there's always
window with a rubber gasket.
Yeah, there's always gonna be a small little thin blade width gap that you have to set expectations with your customers to know that that's what it's gonna be. The darker the film, the more obvious it's gonna be. But the thing to a clean quality install on those windows is consistency. That gap needs to be perfectly even all the way square to the corners. And that's the thing I see when I see other people's work that we're either having to replace or just isn't high quality, just when I'm looking at windows when I'm around, that I think most people struggle with. And this competition doesn't really allow you to showcase that. And then it has you tint a window that in a way that you normally wouldn't tint it. I love the competition. It's great. But that's one thing I would like to see change the window systems. That way it kind of eliminates a little bit of the advantage for multiple time competitors and is more about the quality of the install.
I think the only problem they see with that, I would assume, is the consistency of the window, which it shouldn't matter because even right now with the windows they have, they're consistent, but
yeah, the gaskets are not consistent.
No,
like,
I
the
think
gaskets this year got a lot of people. They got me. I did what I normally do, and the gaskets weren't working with me, tucking them in.
Yep.
And my top gasket had an issue to the point that I had to pull it out, clean it off because I had stuff getting underneath it, and that cost me 2 minutes, which probably cost me getting into the finals.
I mean, if anything, I would love to see a vinyl window. You could easily, because vinyl windows you can see and make it a dark film. I do vinyl window and dark film.
Yeah.
So where you have to see it, you'll see the gap, and that to me would be the next thing to showcase, would be the cutting against a vinyl frame, because like you said, there's an expectation that has to be set, because you can't get the film all the way to the edge on those type of windows. If you do, you risk pulling in tons of contamination. And now you have, there's no light gap, but I have all this dirt and hair in my window. Yeah. So your installation's instantly crap. You got to pull it and redo it again. So it shouldn't be big. It should be like a blade's length. So like less than a 16th almost. And like like you said, it's the consistency that matters, because as long as that is cut with the frame and it is consistent all the way down, you don't really see it. You might see it at certain angles with dark films. The lighter films, you don't ever see it, especially if you get a nice consistent cut against the edge. And make sure you square off your corners, because that's another thing that we will tend to see, is that people will cut out their corners a little too high, and you'll have like a little chunk missing in your corner, a little light. But no, it definitely would make the competition, I think, even more. I would say do a vinyl window, 3x5, and do a sunburst.
Yeah, I would like that too. Yeah, I think that's...
Because that would showcase kind of... And they've done that before. They did that. I'm pretty sure they did that in Baltimore. No. And then after Baltimore, 2015 was the first time of those frames.
No, Baltimore was those frames, because I competed in Baltimore. It was definitely...
No, you didn't. We didn't. We just did auto.
Huh?
We only did auto in Baltimore. I guarantee you.
Oh, well, I got a bad memory then.
2015 is the first time we competed in everything.
Really?
Mm-hmm. We only did auto, because the year before, the first time I competed... So I've technically competing since 2012. That's where it was in Louisville. Not St. Louis, Louisville. Dad came with me.
They had a SEMA window that year, right?
All I did was auto. I didn't even attempt to do flat, because it was, you had a SEMA window right up the middle, which we don't do that, because we really don't encounter windows that big that often. We know how to do it really well, but in a time restraint competition, I was way more confident in my auto at the time. I was the auto installer. I mean, even technically leading in 2015, I was just the auto installer. So it's just something I didn't want. I was like, no, I'm not going to. Didn't do in 2012. Skipped 2013. That's when I got married. And then 2014 is when we went back more than just me, because I only went the first time because the manufacturer, the one that we shall not name, that you worked for, sponsored me, paid my way there. And I was like, all right, let's go check it out. So 2014, we were able to go back. It was me, you, and Brendan won, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, it was me, you, and Brendan. Yeah, definitely Brendan.
Yeah, I remember.
And we all just did auto. And the same thing, I did.
Oh, Adrian was there too.
No.
Yeah, I remember going out. I remember going out with everybody.
I don't think so. I think that was Larry you're talking about.
All right, I got a bad memory.
Yeah, I don't think so. So that happened in 2014. We didn't get into the finals auto, but it's 2015. It was just finally at a point where I think Solar Guard was then sponsoring us then. And I was like, well, I'm going to be there. I'm going to have an opportunity to win $5,000. Why not? And then I joined all three. That's one of the first times I started doing paint protection, which at that time I was kind of way out of my league when it came to competing. Like, I went into that one with a mentality of don't take last.
Like, you did paint protection? That wasn't an
15.
I'm not even going to try.
No, 15 was the first time. The reason and why I stuck with competing in that is because it increased my quality of install. I mean, on everything. I think that's the main reason why we love going back, is that we see the top guys in the industry competing, and you get to see their tips and techniques to either get something done more effectively, more efficiently, and then we get to bring that back, test it ourselves, and then pass it on to our guys.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, I know for a certainty, I've been very lucky to win the times I've won, but when it comes down to it, when you're at that competition, I look at it as the top 1/3 of every division is somebody that I would hire in a heartbeat. I mean, I probably didn't go lower than that, but those are all the guys that all compete at the same level. We're all installing at the same level. It's just, did we execute that day on that window in the precise manner with getting luck too? There's definitely luck getting into the finals. I think the finals is where you find out where like skill really comes into play, because then you got the extra criteria that change the window or the what you're doing, and that's where it comes down even more skill based. But like the top 1/3 of everyone who competes in these things is the top installers in the world.
Nobody that made the finals last year made the finals this year. I'd like to say that was cool to see, but I wish I would have. Definitely.
The finals is much sweeter.
Yeah, watching the finals this year was hard, and I'm definitely not that guy. I'm not like crazy cocky, but I am confident how good I am at doing this thing. Watching the finals this year was rough because I know how good I can install that window, and it was really rough watching. I mean,
one thing I'll
Some
change.
of those windows are full of dirt.
One thing I'll change, and I'll do it. I mean, if I compete again, I know I already kind of made a statement at my exit interview, saying that this was my last year. I'm done. I really look forward to. I want to judge in this competition.
Yeah.
I keep getting pushed by numerous people. You should go compete again. We'll see if the Window Film Mag, if they reach out, and if they do reach out, I'll go from there.
Hi guys. Yeah, I think that would be cool. The only thing that would be a problem with that is, do we still allow? Are we still able to have our guys go compete?
From what I was
I would
told,
like to still compete, and I want to get some of our guys that we're training to go and win this thing.
If it affected that in any way, I mean, if it does affect that in any way, and for some reason, if one of the people from the competition watches this, just don't call me, because then I'm not going to judge. I won't. I won't judge. I don't want to affect our guys going to compete, because I know what the competition did for me. So I will have them go no matter what. I know we have other competitions that are popping up in our industry that I know they're going to be start looking to add flat glass and stuff like that. And then that's where I'll go that route.
Yeah.
But the one thing I would change, if I do compete next year, and if I'm lucky enough to get back into the finals again, the one thing I will do is I will pull top rubber. I'll pull the top rubber. I'll clean that one.
Clean it, yeah, and then put it back before installing.
I made one swipe after I got my window in position with the paper towel just to seal out the water in the top edge. And as I saw the paper towel moving across, I could see gray building up on the paper towel, and I was like, if this pops the tint, this is going into the tint. I'm screwed.
So that's why for me last year it was a no-brainer. With 25 minutes, I knew I had plenty of time to tint that window, even it being me. And those windows hadn't been touched. So when you're doing the initial, unless you're the very first round on the first set of windows, somebody else has already cleaned those windows, wet those gaskets, like they've been cleaned already. So now you're like the second, third, fourth person cleaning that window. But with the final window, nobody's touched it yet. So last year I did pull the gaskets and wiped them off. And I think that does make a huge difference if you have the time to do it. Now you have to have them back in before you install, which I had no problem with last year. Yeah, I think that's a solid piece of advice. If the rules stay the same and it is those same frames, I'd recommend it. So having our guys compete, that kind of brings me to the Jordan v. Jordan side bet we had. So this year we had an in-house competition for our automotive installers that are a little bit more junior. And we let them compete at the shop. We kind of put some stuff out on Instagram on that, kind of showing a little bit of the competition. And whoever won that in-house competition got to go to the Tint-Off. So Jordan Baker, our second cousin, actually won that in-house Tint-Off and got to come with us this year. And then Jordan Blanchard, our graphics installer and PPF installer, was coming to compete in PPF. So me and you made a little side bet on, hey, let's enter these guys into the architectural Tint-Off. Neither of them install architectural window film, so houses and buildings pretty much ever. Jordan Blanchard had some experience with you in the past when you guys were younger as your prepper and helping you install houses, and been around the shop for how long now?
He's our second tenured installer, so I want to say 12 years.
Okay, over 10 years.
Definitely over 10.
And Jordan's got Baker has 3 years experience in auto now, and he also grew up around the shop because he lived with us from like 3 to 10. So we decided to train them up a little bit at the shop and have them compete in architectural. I feel like they both did really well, especially with the 15-minute constraint. All the practicing we did was under a 20-minute clock. Blanchard finished his window. It had a little bit of flaws, but I think out in the wild, it would have been a window that could have been touched up a little bit more and left on.
Extra 5 minutes.
It would have been fine. The time is really the thing that got him. And then Baker's window was looking good. He just ran out of time. The 15 minutes clean, stick, dry, put everything away adds another element. How do you think they did? And I know we're planning on doing an architectural Tint-Off at the shop this year so that we can also bring someone from my department to come compete also. How do you think they did, and what do you think we can do this year to prepare the guys better going into next year's competition?
Well, get them used to 15 minutes. That's the first one. I think they did really good. The biggest thing I preached to Blanchard, because that's who I was training, was like the certain steps to take. Because like I said, like when it comes to this competition, that window is a very systematized window, how to install it cleanly. And as long as you follow the steps and you execute them to the preciseness that they need to be executed in, you should be in very good shape. I was very proud of both of them because the doing something that you don't ever do and you got to do it in 15 minutes, like it was definitely nerve-wracking, I would say. But I think it was good though, because like for like how we drew our heats this year, it really helped because I know Blanchard did his flat glass first and then he did his paint protection second.
Yeah.
So he was able to shake out the nerves because it doesn't matter how long you've been going to these things. I've now competed 8 years, I think in auto, 6 years in flat glass and paint protection. And I still like leading up to walking in, like, and then them saying go, it still hits you. It doesn't matter how many times you've competed. You can talk to all the guys that have competed for. I mean, Les Helton has competed now, I think, for 14 years. He won. I think it was I looked it up. He won the first one and the second one in auto. Like, so he's dominated auto.
I think he said he's been doing it since 2005.
Yeah, that's the first year.
Yeah.
And then he's won flat glass, so he's multiple champion, both divisions. But you don't ever shake those nerves. So I think it was good for them to. At least good for Blanchard. Unfortunately, Baker, he got the opposite. He did his auto first, but he's really comfortable in his auto.
Yeah.
And I think it was good for him to go first, only in the aspect that he could just walk in there just being, I don't want to make this sound insulting, but just young and just blind to kind of what's going to happen or how it's going to go. And it's like, instead of watching, guys that have competed numerous years fold and like get kind of not, let's say fold, but get kind of crushed with the time restraint because they made us do 2 doors this year in 20 minutes, which still is a decent amount of time. Like in your shop, you'll do 2 doors and you'll be done like in 15 minutes. And you're like, oh, all right. But when you get put into a competition like that, the added pressure, if you have all your peers around you, of all your installers that are all high-end installers, it definitely gets to you a bit.
Yeah, and the added element of hand cutting is, I think you look at most of the guys that make the finals for automotive, they're guys that are maybe a one-person shop somewhere that's all they still do is hand cutting. Us having computer cut so that we can have 4 or 5 guys work on a car and get them done a little bit quicker, still at high quality. It's kind of the only way to scale a window tint business in my mind is if you're not using computer cut patterns on the daily, you can't really uptick the volume. So the guys that are hand cutting every day,
you can't uptick because you can't. What it takes to become, I would say, like a master installer, hand cutting is going to take an extra 2-3 years.
Oh, totally. And every car you do is going to take that much longer. Compared to clean the window, just peel the pattern off the peel board that's already been cut by somebody and start installing. So that added time element definitely crushes all. It crushed me. I've been doing this my whole life. I don't tint very many cars these days. It's pretty much all houses. I finished the windows in 20 minutes, but they needed some touch up, and I knew it. So it is what it is. It's a competition. It isn't what we exactly do in the shop every day. So it's, I like the fact that they keep reducing the time and making it more competitive.
Well, I think that's what the drive was for doing it for flat glass too. And so I honestly don't see them replacing the window systems because they already have those pre-built.
Yeah.
And they're easy to transport.
Yeah.
They're bolted together, how they're bolted together, and how they've come up with now one person installs in the first half of the heat, and the other person installs in the second half of the heat. So I don't see them doing that. I could see them reducing time, taking things away, making it way more time restrictive.
Yeah, it seems to be what they're doing. I like that too. I mean, because also, how often do you end up on a job, even as long as we've been doing this, I'll end up on jobs a couple times a year where it's a window system or a setup or a replaced window or something that you've never seen before. And you have to be able to think on your toes and just adjust and do some critical thinking and what are the skill sets I know that can make this window come out good. So the fact that the competition isn't exactly the way we would handle those windows normally day to day it's kind of cool because that is something you need to know how to do, is deal with some adversity, deal with something that you don't typically deal with. Because day to day, if you just come across something that you've never dealt with and you don't know how to handle it, you can't just like, oh, I'm not tinting this window.
Well, and if anything, now I think about it, that it actually makes me want to say, then I hope they don't change the window system, because no one installs that window the way we have to install it in the competition. So it puts everybody at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
No one's used to doing that window like that.
All right, I've
so.
completely changed my opinion from the beginning of this conversation.
Well, thinking about it that way, like that actually makes sense. It's reduced time, and here we're going to make you do something you don't do. Let's see how good you are with your skills. You should be able to pull this off.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so outside of the competition, what new in the industry or conversation did you have with somebody at the conference, at the Tint-Off, that you're most excited about, or that's something that makes you want to implement some kind of change in the way we're doing things?
The way we're doing things.
Just any kind of inspiration or new technology or anything that like really stood out to you.
No, see, this is where I actually might reduce how many competitions I do while I'm there, is because I'm in 3 different competitions. It restricts my time of looking or talking to people about those things by themselves. Is the newer technology, stuff like that. That's definitely something where I try to keep on top of myself this year. I know one thing that we did do at the very end of the show, because we didn't make enough time right at the end, is something that we're looking to add into our I guess tool chest, to our company, to our auto side, is rock chip repair. We went and looked at rock chip repair kits and what it would be, because it's actually a fairly simple fix. Something that we run into constantly while installing windshields or doing windshields is someone has a rock chip, and it's like you gamble if you put tin on there without fixing it. So instead of someone bringing someone out of house, bring it into our house, have our guys learn how to do it and implement that. That is something I'm looking forward to. What about you?
That would be at the top of the list, because seeing it done, and I think we've done it in the past before, but with the new equipment, with that, if you actually get the best machine, you can fix a rock chip in 5 minutes.
Yep.
It's a nice little value add we can add to our customers, that, hey, get your window tint done with us. If you're getting your windshield tinted, we'll fix the rock chip and throw it in, or I know there's ways to process it through the insurance or whatever that might be, but it's something we can add value, and we don't need to discount any kind of price or anything to actually get the person to choose coming with us. And I think it would be simple to train people to do, so I agree with that. I don't know, same thing. I competed in auto and architectural, and I did a lot of the recording that we did while we were there. So Fusion looks like they have some cool new tools. They always do. I always like playing around with the new stuff they've got going on. I actually saw a lot of people there this year using the Tint Buster, which those guys were really cool to talk to. So I might actually try one of those, just to see. It might make more sense for the automotive guys, and even talk to a couple people that are using them for architectural, for like ladder work, where you don't have to worry about the hose coming up.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm excited to talk to those guys and maybe get one of those to test out and see how they work. Right now we're using the True Spray tanks, which I love. They work great, but there might be a scenario where having a couple of those around makes sense, just to have an extra tool. I love the fact that so many people in the industry are creating like side projects to create new tools and ways to do this better. I don't know, kind of going back to the competition part, is something that I know we've been talking about, and I want to ask you, I guess get you on camera, on your thoughts on the fact that everybody does it so differently. And I know we've been talking about doing some type of seminar or school or training, or maybe even building up a catalog of online, like, here's how we do it. Something that kind of popped in my head while we were there was, I might be giving out the secret sauce, but if I would like to execute on this, if somebody beats me to it, I'd just be glad it exists. BJJ Fanatics is like the top online learning for jiu-jitsu right now, and rather than it being like one person trying to teach everybody how to do it, it's several different people around the world or the country that are the top at whatever type of system. They record an instructional on a specific thing. So, and then that is broken down into slices and really well organized. And you can go on there and you can buy for $39, $79, depending on whose it is and what system it is. You can buy that instructional and always go back to it and look at it. I think it would be really cool to use that space we have in the front of the shop to set up a studio where we can do instructionals of our own, teach our guys, maybe have seminars, but then also have guest installers come in like Chris Brooks or Sal or any of these guys there that we know that we've known for years. And going back to these conferences, it's always nice to be like, man, we know so many people in the film industry that are amazing at what they do. Seeing them all compete and tint completely different styles, and I would like to get more in depth on like why they're doing it that way, because we know why we're doing the way we're doing it.
Yeah.
And I don't think there is a right way. And
Definitely
I think
not.
having more information out there rather than saying, all right, we're going to create a tint school and we're going to teach everybody the right way to do it, the way we do it, which is the typical way everybody in the industry thinks. I think it would be really cool to have a database of a bunch of different people's styles of tinting and see what everybody can pull from it, just to pull the quality of the industry up. I don't know. Our biggest problem in the industry is it's still so young, 70s, 80s is the beginning of the industry, and there was no accredited school to learn how to do it. Everybody learned on their own. So a bunch of different styles and techniques have been adapted nationwide. The more we can incorporate all of that to agreeing on what are those basic fundamentals that have to be followed, will just improve the quality of tint work everywhere, which will cause more people to realize it's an option for them. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think it would be... I would love to do something like that. I credit that to how I learned how to tint. Like in the speech, I like the previous 2 speeches I gave. And to be honest, I don't remember the first 2 what I really said in them. But I know what I didn't do. So I didn't give Dad the recognition that he deserved, because he's the one who taught me how to tint. He's the one who taught me, like I said in the speech, quality. What the end product needs to be. Like you said, there is no right way to do it, but there is a right end to it. Like that end better look the same. Yeah. I don't care how you got from A to B or however you did it. I mean, any person that we've brought into our shop that had past experience, I've always kind of said the same thing. It was, as long as your quality of work is where our standard is,
Yep.
I don't care what you do. If I see something that keeps happening over and over again, I'm going to make a suggestion. And then just to help, like, here, try to incorporate this. Not like, hey, you have to do it this way. I mean, like I said, like Dad taught me quality. And then through the years of growing up in the business, watching you, which, yes, you were taught by Dad too, but you had your own iteration on what Dad taught you. So now I'm getting a different version of it. That's where I got really lucky. Being the second son, technically, like almost with most, or the second child, like most sports, your daughters are your daughters, I think, are the product of this too, is that Brooke has gone out and you have found certain coaches with Brooke. She's went through a couple coaches and then you found the coach. London just got the coach.
Yeah.
And like other one of our installers in our shop, Jordan Blanchard, he has a little brother too. Same thing. Jordan went through all these different hitting coaches and pitching coaches. When Chandler got old enough, they already had everything dialed in.
Yep.
So it's me being able to be around, say, Dad teaching me, and then me watching you, and then watching all the other installers in our shop, watching him do certain things. I pulled things. That's the one thing that I will say that I came to realize, I probably didn't realize it when I was younger, is watching all the different installers and slowly grabbing things from them, each one of them. Like my speed I got from Rod. Like there's no doubt about Rod, Terry. Same thing. Watching those certain techniques, piecing it together what I did with Dad to make sure that I had the end product that I wanted. But I was able to say, here, what happens if I cut this step out and I compensate by doing this over here? This will save me a little time. Like every project that I walk onto, flat glass or even a car, mostly flat glass style, see how many panes we have. What do they look like? And then I start doing the math in my head. If I do 10 minutes of pane, how long is this going to take me? And then it's like, all right, add in a couple minutes here or there for random things that you gotta do. But I think that would be that exact same concept. Is you see a bunch of different, like, I would love to have Les come in and Sal.
Oh yeah.
And be like, why aren't you guys using the top factory? I'm just curious, because I thought for a certainty they were going to be in the finals. Their windows
are great.
Their windows look really good. So I'm dying to see what the scores are, just to see how tight it was. Because usually it's always, like I said, getting the top third is always Like you're going to be up there. It's like, did you get lucky enough to get in the top 8, and now you get to go into the finals and see what happens.
Yeah.
But I would love to pick their brains on why they do that, because I think me and Chris even had a conversation about that and talked about the same thing. I was like, they used side factories, and Chris looked at me. He's like, yeah, I don't know. Just top factory. It's already straight.
Yeah.
Like, why not? Like, so it's one of those things. Like, I just want to know why. And then also I want to see them, what they do to make sure no dirt gets on the top of their windows. Cause there's certain things like, there are window systems, like you brought up earlier, that you walk into a house and you can't put the factory at the top for whatever reason it may be, material using or whatever it is. You have to cut all 4 edges. So majority of the time people would be scared to peel and stick those, without pre-cutting it, worrying about the dirt getting on top of the window. But like, I have certain steps that I take that, like, I make sure no water goes on the top. I make sure my film gets wet. The very first thing I address is tacking it enough to where I can cut that top edge and squeegee it out instantly. Don't leave any time for water to draw down dirt from the top edge. So I would love to pick their brains and see a breakdown tutorial of them doing it. That would be, I mean, and if anything though, you'd almost have to do like, I guess seeing the different window systems would be good, but also if you could get it to where you could have people do the same window system and let them do it their way, like here you do it your way. Like when we were at Kyle Fuller's Tint Pros for his opening in, what was that, 2019? Or 2020 is actually
beginning of 2020,
just
right
before the world shut off.
Yeah. Right before.
Yeah, well, that was, yeah. So watching, one thing I dragged from that was watching Sal shrank a back window, because Sal was there. And like how he shrank his back windows, he shrank from the top down. And like that is kind of like, that's what you do with crystalline, but I've never seen it really, like I never saw someone's take on it.
Oh, from the bottom of the finger to the top of the
Yeah,
finger.
yeah. So, and I saw him breaking it into big chunks. So like for my back windows, I do that now. I split it into big fighters, and then I heat from the top down. It shrinks out that top part, and it just literally sucks straight to the window. And it's like, well, I've never thought of that before.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is you've never stopped learning. You're constantly trying to learn more from everybody. I think that, again, I can't help but always bring everything back to jiu-jitsu. And this year it stuck with me more than anything. Like, there's certain fundamentals, but there's a bunch of different paths and ways to get there. I don't know. Yeah, but if you're coming into this industry and you don't have a growth mindset and you get to the point that you can like do a window and you think it looks good and it can't get any better, and then you don't take any advice from anybody and you don't try to learn more stuff, you're just going to get stuck in a spot where people that are improving 1% a day, or it doesn't even need to be a day, because that actually turns into a ridiculous amount of growth, a week, a month, whatever. Constantly trying to grow and improve is the real secret, right? Like,
oh, absolutely.
Being humble enough to know that, like, you know, if we were to have a belt system for window tinting right now, we'd be wearing black belts. But you know what? Like that, there's no end to that. You know, you talk to someone who's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and they'll tell you like, "Oh, I feel like I just started." Like, it's a never-ending learning process, and if you have that mindset, I think it's going to be the thing that actually does you the most good. Like, I know I'm a better installer today than I was 5 years ago, or that I was last year, because I'm constantly trying to improve. How can I get windows on cleaner? How can I do it a little faster while keeping that quality? How can I explain it better to my guys while I'm training them?
I would say that's probably the hardest part. That's the one thing that I have been trying to grow for myself, is just the teaching aspect. Like, we've now been training our installers for the past, 3 years? The new guys we brought in, it's progressively gotten to the point
like
where
actually aggressively bringing people in and training. Well, but we've been training for a long time.
Yeah, but like bringing guys in that know nothing, and then it's like it is our sole responsibility to build them up from that, and then how you do that and keep them, I wouldn't say interested, but keep them intrigued to keep wanting to learn and understand why I do this, why I do that. I mean, like I said, like when training Blanchard for the competition, like I showed him, like, I'm going to show you exactly what to do for this window system. I've competed on it numerous times now. There's very simple process that I go through and I use, and that I know works for me, and we're on a time crunch, so just do this and you'll be good.
So again, this is so funny because anybody out there that trains jiu-jitsu will totally get this. You sit down for a class, there's typically a technique or something that's trained. Let's say it's an arm bar. They're going to show you all these basic steps for doing an armbar. Everybody in the class is at different skill levels. Somebody might be their first day. Somebody else might be training for 10 years. You know, me, I'm almost 5 years now. I can watch a class that I've already watched before, but I now have 2 years of training in between of actively rolling, executing, trying to do it. And all of a sudden something else sticks out in the lesson because I realize it's something I've been missing. So it's like doing the online school thing, I think it would definitely have to be followed up with actual hands-on in person.
Absolutely.
Or hands-on where they film it themselves and record it in a way where they can send it back to you. I know the Gracie's online jiu-jitsu thing does that, where people, if they want to actually get a belt, they can do it remotely, but they have to do videos of them actually showing how to execute it. But it's like getting the reps in matters. Because you don't understand what you're being told if you don't have the vocabulary for it. Like factory topping, like taking the edge of the box that's a perfect factory straight edge. So if you have a 60-inch roll and a window's 58 inches tall, you can just pull out and it's 30 inches wide. You can pull 30 inches out and cut it and roll it in a way where the perfect factory edge just goes to the top of the window. Me and you say it to each other like it's just like everyone should know that, but like that's a language that we have in the window tint industry that like, so all of those little details, the first time you explain that to someone, it's like you could explain it perfectly, not miss a single detail, but the ability to actually then replicate that, like you could be sitting there watching intently someone show you how to do an armbar for 30 minutes, ask questions, all right, let's go. And you go to try to do it yourself and it's like, what was step one? Yeah. Like, yeah, so that's the other thing, expectations for people trying to learn how to get better at window tinting. You're not going to learn it overnight. You're going to mess up film. You're going to have issues. Persistence and just continuing to do it is the other piece.
Well, education of the film too, of the film that you're installing and the different panels that you're going to be installing on. The main reason I say that is like you're talking about factory top edge. Like there are numerous windows. When you walk in, you see a window, and you know you're more benefited. You have a cleaner install doing it on the side, and it just depends from window to window.
Exactly.
And you're not going to know until you hit that situation, and then it's either you struggle through it, waste a bunch of film, and then finally figure it out. Which I mean, that's kind of what comes with the territory when you're training somebody. Is I already know we're expected to lose film. It's going to happen because I did the same thing. I trashed film. To think that I'm going to bring someone else in and I'm going to be able to tell it to them a certain way to where they're not doing that, pointless. It's getting the installer to the point of realizing, telling them like, you don't have to worry about, like, obviously I don't want you trashing a bunch of film, but at the same time, the quality of the install is what matters. Do not try to leave something and get away with something. That it never works out. There's no point to it. It doesn't service anybody.
The problem is sometimes it does work out and the people don't see it and they get away with it a couple times and then they start trying to stretch getting away with it more often.
And that's why we hammer that home, that we that absolutely don't want that. Like, don't worry about, like, there's a reason why we have our apprentice program the way we have it is I've already built in the cost of what it's going to be. I know you're going to scrap things. Yep. And I'm okay with that because we aren't going to change our standard when it comes to quality install. That's what's made our business so successful over the past, four decades now?
Yeah, 40 years.
Yeah, is quality is everything. The installation of the quality is everything. And then knowing your window system, putting the proper film on the window. Like there'll be companies that'll just be like, yeah, we can put that on that window. They've got no clue if they can put it on that window. If it's a dual pane window and if they're putting too dark of a film on that window, possibility you break that window. Yep. If you're not educated enough in knowing what films to put on there, it's just one of those things. Or if you, with safety film, wet attaching an edge, putting a attachment on an edge, there are windows you have to do that on. Yeah. That if you do not put a wet silicone attachment on the window, like I say a sliding glass door, it's tempered glass, they're going to break that window and then it's going to fall straight in. Like we just did a school where we did 14 mil on all the windows and every single window was tempered. So we attached absolutely everything because that's what's going to provide the security. It's what's going to provide the time. It's going to buy them time. If there ever is an event that happens, it's going to buy them time to go through their protocols to make sure everyone's safe and everyone gets out when they need to be.
Yeah, definitely. It's a question I had for you, but I'm going to answer it before I even ask you. I think one of the biggest things that the industry could use right now is just more education on stuff like that, because you don't know what you don't know. And the same way we're trying to build a reputation for our business and make sure that our standards are set high and that we always provide quality work, the more everybody in the industry does that, the higher it lifts the whole industry. I don't see it in a scarcity mindset. I see it in we can all make the industry bigger. There's billions, if not trillions, of square feet of glass out there to install. There's nowhere near enough people to do it. And the average consumer doesn't understand the benefits of most window films. There's all different types of films that we have that most people, I go to jobs every week where people go, I didn't know I could do this, or I would have done it years ago. So every bad experience that someone has out there with somebody installing the wrong film and breaking their windows, or installing security film and not attaching the edges, and then they get broken into,
And
you
doesn't
know,
do anything for 'em.
that damages the industry, because now that person's actively telling people don't do it. It's a scam.
Doesn't work.
It broke my windows or whatever, and then that hurts everybody. Opposed to if there's more people out there doing it the right way and making people happy, that person might move from the city they're in right now and end up in Vegas and be like, immediately, that's the first thing I'm doing is tinting my house. Or they might move here or from here to someone else's city, and they've had the opposite experience and they're never going to do it, you know? So it helps everybody.
Oh, no, absolutely. When it comes from the aspect of like people replacing the windows on their house to be more energy efficient, windows are not cheap. And they definitely seems like just we've had close friends, or I've had close friends get some quotes.
I've had customers, their prices are through the roof.
Yeah, which, you know, then they find out like, hold on, I can put a window film product on here and pretty much achieve the exact same thing, or if not, reduce my energy costs to where it makes more sense. Instead of going through all the construction of tearing out all my windows and putting new windows in, they can just retrofit and put film on, and they'll get maybe not 100% what they're looking for, but 90%. And it cost be 0.25%, if not even less. I mean, it's you know.
And again, the different products we offer. So actually, one thing about the competition or the conference, something I actually got to talk to Dennis, our 3M rep, about, that I am super excited about, and is Dynoc. It's probably a longer conversation for another day, but I didn't even know it existed till maybe a year ago, and now I'm like super interested in going and getting the training to do it. But we basically now have a material we can install by 3M that's got like 1,500, 2,000 different versions of it.
A lot.
Stone, wood, leather, all different types of materials, where it's a material we can wrap on a door, on a wall, on a table, on a counter, something like this.
Table.
Which is huge in retrofitting buildings and, you know, doors in hotels. So you don't have to replace the whole door to make it look like a brand new fresh door with whatever style you want it to look like. And the training for that isn't a lot, and it's something that there's a huge demand for right now. So, you know, everybody out there who is doing architectural, doing residential, commercial, I think it's a product to look at. The more I look into it and the more I hear people talk about it, the more interested I am in that potential, because now it's not just glass even. Now we've also, you know, same way we do graphic wraps on walls, but now we've got, you know, high-end looking
ability to make a wall look like it's stone, or wood finish.
Yeah, so
multiple different patterns. Yeah, that catalog it's a thick catalog.
Yeah, we're going to have to do one of these again. I think we're running out of time. I just want to say thank you for being my brother and always driving me to do better. Again, I wanted to go out there and win and beat you. It definitely got me a little bit that I didn't make the finals and I didn't have a chance to compete against the finals. But I'm super proud of you. I'm glad that we've got what we've got going at the shop, how well we all work together, including with Nichelle, our entire team. We're going to have another one of these. It's just me and you, where we can talk more about just general stuff in the industry. But what are your final thoughts on this year's competition, the conference? Meeting people like Carlos, that's a whole nother conversation, man. It sucks that we're out of time. That guy is so cool and so different than what he is on social media in person.
No. It's like I said at the beginning, thank you, WFCT, for putting that event on. Reconnecting with all past friends that I've gotten to know over the years, Chris Brooks, Les Helton, Sal, all those guys, Randy Humphreys. They definitely have had a a big part in, I'd say, molding me into the installer I am, and even business owner too, because a lot of those guys are, I mean, they are the owners of their operation, and I get to sit there and pick their brains and talk to them about certain things, and it was a absolute blast competing again. Fun, always competing against you. As much as I am constantly just ragging on you, it's just fun.
Man, you won everything last week, bro. We went and did the 3K race for Tinters for a Cause, which Dean Mitchell we're going to have on soon.
Yep.
Beat me by 100 feet and a 3K. Took third place overall. We had 2 other guys out there that run ultras that beat both of us by quite a bit.
Oh yeah, they took off, and I was like, "No, I'm not about that."
Yeah.
But I may or may not have led you to believe that my foot was still. I mean, it still is recovering, but there was no chance in hell that I wasn't going to try to beat you in that. So
we could get into that more, but
yeah.
I was definitely going to beat you with another 200 yards to go. I just didn't see the
planning.
finish.
I'm
not going to make excuses.
Yeah, it's all about planning.
It's all right. It's okay if my little brother beats me. I'm happy with it.
But no, I always enjoy going to the competition. Like I said, reconnecting with everybody, seeing what's happening in the industry, and then again, like the competition is still by far my favorite thing, just because you see all the top guys really pushing for to see who's the best, and you get to see all the tips and tricks. So you get to improve your installations. You get to bring that back into everybody else, go over different tips and tricks here, or the new tools too, from Fusion, all the new little tools that are coming out, Tint Buster, all those things, and seeing how people use them. Because that's the big thing. You'll see a tool, and you're like, okay, I'm never going to use that. And then you'll see someone use it in a certain way, and you're like, got it. All right, now I'm going to try that and see how that goes.
Yeah, I saw someone's bottom loading tool. I think it was also one of the guys from Puerto Rico. It's his own tool that he made. It's powder coated even.
I saw that.
Bottom loading looked really cool. I think we're out of time for this one. Remember to subscribe, watch the other episodes that we've done so far, and follow along for, SEMA's coming up soon. We're going to have Dean Mitchell for Tinters with a Cause. I know we scheduled like 3 or 4 other people.
Yep.
I wasn't part of that, but I know we've got a bunch scheduled for SEMA at the end of the month, beginning of November. Bunch of top people in the industry. We've got some real good knowledge to share, so make sure you subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys aren't going to hold up your trophy?
Oh, yeah. Well, he gets to hold up 3.
I don't know if there's room. Hold on. All right, so 2015, this was my first one. This was a big turning point for me in my career because it kind of gave me solidification for my own self that I was good at what I did, and that I can compete and I can stand up with the best in the industry. So it was a big personal win for me in my own life, turning points in my own life. And then 2015, it was in San Antonio. 2018 San Antonio. This was a good one. I mean, this one was the fun one because
that might be my favorite.
Because this was the year that me and Josh both got into the finals, and I was able to take first, and he took second. So that kind of really ignited the competition, which it already was ignited to begin with. So neither one of us wants to lose to each other at any time.
I'm happy with that outcome.
And then from there, you have he was back in San Antonio last year. That was the one I wasn't able to make it to that one. We just had other things to do with the business, so we were able to send Josh and a couple of our guys, and he was able to bring home the title then. And then I was lucky enough this year to win. And then the one thing I'm really proud of is that we won back-to-back as a company. We'll see if I decide to compete again next year. I guess we'll let the year play out.
You need to let me beat you. No, don't let me beat you. I want to beat you. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm beating Ricky next year because I'm making him compete. Subscribe.
Subscribe. Have a good one, guys.